All right, let's jump right in. We are about to tackle one of the biggest, most mind-bending ideas in all of philosophy. It all comes from Immanuel Kant's legendary work, The Critique of Pure Reason. And trust me, it's an idea that completely flipped the script on how we think about, well, reality itself.
So here's the question that really gets to the heart of it, the one that kept Kant up at night. Is your mind basically a camera, just passively snapping photos of a world that's already out there? Or is it more like a projector, actively casting its own structure onto everything you see? This one question, right here, is the key to everything.
You see, before Kant showed up in the 18th century, philosophy had pretty much hit a brick wall. For hundreds of years, the sharpest minds on the planet were just stuck, locked in this huge debate about where our knowledge even comes from. And honestly, they were just spinning their wheels.
So in one corner, you had the rationalists. These guys thought you could just sit back in your armchair and, using pure logic, figure out all the secrets of the universe. But in the other corner, you had the empiricists, and they shot back, no way! We're born as blank slates. All knowledge has to come from what we see and hear and touch. The problem was, both of these paths led to a dead end. Either you had these grand claims that nobody could prove, or you had this deep-seated doubt that we could ever really know anything for sure.
And Kant, looking at this whole mess, felt his own field of study had totally lost its way. He said that metaphysics, the study of ultimate reality, wasn't a science at all. He called it a merely random groping, like people just stumbling around aimlessly in the dark.
And this is where everything changes. Stuck in this philosophical rut, Kant has what he called a single happy thought. And it was an idea so powerful, so revolutionary, that he compared it to what Nicholas Copernicus did for astronomy.
For literally thousands of years, everybody just assumed one simple thing. Reality is out there, and our job, or our mind's job, is to bend and shape itself to match what's out there. The object is king, and our mind is just the student, passively taking notes.
But then, Kant just flips the whole thing on its head. He asks this simple but totally radical question. What if we've had it backwards this entire time? What if, instead of our minds conforming to objects, objects have to conform to the basic rules of our minds just for us to experience them at all? It's just like Copernicus, right? He realized that all the math for the stars made way more sense if you just assumed that the observer, the Earth, was the one that was moving. Well, Kant did the same thing for philosophy. He said, look, this all starts to make sense if we assume the observer, the human mind, isn't just a passive bystander, but an active player that helps shape the very reality it sees.
Okay, so what in the world does that actually mean? For reality to revolve around the mind? How does that even work? Well, it all starts with one really important distinction.
First, Kant draws a line in the sand. He says we can never, ever know the world of things in themselves, reality as it might be, totally separate from us. Nope, we can only know the world of phenomena, and that's just a fancy word for the world as it appears to us.
So, how does that world appear to us? Well, Kant says our mind isn't a blank hard drive. It comes with a pre-installed operating system, a set of lenses that filter and organize every bit of information that comes in. Things like space and time, they aren't just floating out there in the universe. They're the basic frameworks our mind uses to sort everything. And the same goes for ideas like cause and effect. We don't just find it in the world. We impose it on the world so we can make sense of it.
Now, the takeaway from this is absolutely huge. It means you are not a passive fly on the wall. Every single thing you experience is a joint production, a collaboration between whatever is out there and the incredible structuring power of your own mind.
Now, a revolution this big is going to have some massive consequences. On the one hand, it gives human reason an incredible amount of power. But on the other, it draws a very clear, very firm line in the sand that we cannot cross.
So, here's the big win. If all human minds have the same basic operating system, the same lenses like space, time, and causality, then we can have knowledge that is objective and true for every single one of us. This is why science works. It's why 2 + 2 = 4 for you, for me, for everyone. We're all running the same fundamental software.
But here's the trade-off. Because our knowledge is limited to this world of appearances, this world structured by our minds, we have to give up any claim of knowing things that lie outside the boundaries of experience. We can't use pure reason to prove or disprove God or free will or an immortal soul. Those things are just outside the system.
But Kant didn't think this was a bad thing. He said this loss only affects the monopoly of the schools, in no respect the interests of humanity. Basically, it just pops the bubble of philosophers who thought they could think their way to ultimate truth. In a way, he was actually protecting things like faith and morality from reason by putting them in their own special, untouchable category.
So, let's wrap this all up. It's been more than 2 centuries? Why are we still talking about this? What is the real, lasting impact of Kant's so-called Copernican revolution?
Well, first, he gave science a rock-solid philosophical foundation, explaining how we can have universal laws that apply to everyone. Second, he basically drew a map for human reason, showing its incredible power, but also its absolute limits. And third, pretty much every major philosopher who came after him had to deal with his ideas. He literally set the agenda for all of modern thought.
And so we end up right back where we started, but with a much deeper question. Kant's revolution solved a ton of problems, but it leaves us with this incredible, maybe unanswerable mystery. If our minds are helping to create the only world we will ever know, what is that silent, unfiltered reality really truly like, forever beyond our grasp?